I'm Margaret Ann Windsor, and I want to start this out. The reason I'm doing this video, and really what I've done on Facebook and YouTube and the social media, is trying to make people aware of the false allegations, the illegal takedown of my father, King Edward VIII, and of my kidnapping in 1941 at age 2 and who kidnapped me. History still is a total lie. It's unbelievable that it could be even used today. And therein, I want to make this statement. My father never married Wallis Simpson. She married an impostor, a double, and became the illegal Duke and Duchess of Windsor. Elizabeth was 15 in 1941 when I was kidnapped. I remember being kidnapped now at age 2, so she certainly remembers who I am, who my father married, Claudia Ruth O'Keefe Windsor. Artist Georgia O'Keefe is my aunt, my mom's sister. My mom was queen, and there was a plot to take my father down, quite frankly, because he wouldn't take orders from the Illuminati. He was the good guy in all this. And look at how history has treated him. Total lies. Winston Churchill helped burn the Windsor files, my father's marriage to my mom, my birth. You got the I'm trying to think. Okay, let me just forget that one. I'll just go ahead and say this, which I've said all along, and I want to add some here, though. Winston Churchill was a part of all this, and he even had an apartment at the White House. He and the Roosevelts, President Roosevelt, and his sons and his wife Eleanor were all a part of this. Eleanor was friends of Wallace Warfield Simpson, the American spy. Who didn't get in on it? The Rockefellers, Rothschilds, Bilderbergers. Kennedy was appointed, Joe Kennedy, ambassador to England, 36 till they kicked him out in 46. His son, Joe, and JFK flew into the embassy. And JFK even spoke before the parliament, and they actually stayed at the embassy. Now then, during the time specifically when I was born in 39 till I was kidnapped in 41, JFK flew in there quite often to London. And he was a part of kidnapping me and a part of what happened to me here later in the United States. They put me in Moulton, Alabama, gave me another name, a name of a twin that I still have to use, Peggy Ann Dempsey. I married a Childers. And then later, I do want to get this in. Later, I found out that Martin Luther King partnered with JFK in what happened to me, was happening to me in the takedown of the British. And by taking down the British, they could control everything. The United States, the Illuminati can, and do now. The United Nations is your front for your global government. And it's right out of New York, and we're Rockefeller Plaza, and they control the media. So there's a blackout on the truth about my father and me. So I'm going to just stop there. They've deleted my father. They've deleted me. They've deleted my mom. Now then, I watch what they're doing with Meghan Markel. They're playing on the fact that she's biracial, and now then it's, it's not politically correct to even say someone's black, or how about if you say they're white? So it's gone to where you can't even make a comment. So I'm going to comment this. They're using the race card. I was brought to Moulton, Alabama. I'm British. I'm the monarch. I'm Queen Victoria. The day I was born, there was an addendum to my father's forced abdication. All of it lies, remember. He never married Wallace, who was married to my mom, a school teacher, sister to the artist Georgia O'Keefe. He just wouldn't follow the Illuminati. He did his job, or at least tried to, which is King of England, the British. And they took him down, quite frankly, then kidnapped me. But there was an addendum that stated, should an heir be born, heir would inherit. And it was all legal. It went before the proper channels. And so in 1939, and I show this quite often. 1939 is when Uncle George was planning my kidnapping with Roosevelt. And there's a photograph I put up here of Eleanor Roosevelt, supposedly the First Lady, Roosevelt's wife, where she's congratulating, late in 41, they're congratulating each other. They kidnapped me in 1941, the spring, early summer, and congratulating each other on shaking hands on job well done. So that was 1939. Now, I want to get back to Meghan Markle. Yesterday, well, day before yesterday now was Christmas. Gets a little confusing. I'm stuck back here in a room at a motel. Glad to have it, I guess, but there's more to it than that, which I've told, so I won't get into that again, how I'm made to run and kept penniless. And every law in the book broken. Assault with intent, you name it. But I want to get back to this. She spent Christmas and had Christmas dinner with Elizabeth and my family. And I'm almost ashamed to say it now, and if there's members of my family that are still attempting to help me, then I thank them. But I begin to wonder. I know that some of my family years ago did try to help. I'm not sure members of the Windsors did, and yet there's certain things that make me think today that perhaps they did. So maybe time will tell, or maybe all this is just covered up and the global government flourishes and people get what I guess they wanted. I'm going to put this up here now. Is this what you wanted? Because I didn't know this. I was writing about mind control murders and Larry Flint. Was shot in Lawrenceville, Georgia. He says Dr. Congressman Larry McDonald helped in his shooting. It was a programmed shooting where people are programmed to commit crimes, and they're innocent as the one they hit. It's the person doing the puppetry and programming. But anyway, this is the global government, which is in power now, your United Nations. Timothy McVeigh was in the Army. This is one of your people, America, that fought for you. Of course, I am, what am I? I'm the Queen of England. I have lived over here, and if they talk about trenches and using the bathroom and no toilet tissue and all of this, no food, using a sock to wipe yourself, having the park rangers chase you for the fun of it, when you can hardly walk and it's cold and it's hot at times, and I could have stepped on a snake or even run into a bear while they're chasing me down the road, and I'm out in and this was all meant to be. They took me into court, and I was told they could give me 6 months because one of them, listen to the name, who was it played Larry Flint? Oh, I'm going to forget his name now. Oh, please don't. Well, anyway, I'm going to just let that go. It was a lie about what was done, and Eric Smith was one of the Rangers. Who played in the movie? Anyway, this person that worked for the forestry told a lie. And anyway, see if you can find all that. That went up on TV. They covered that. It was 3 or 4 times. One of the times I'm going to mention it was when the Ramseys were in jail right after. Well, I don't know that they were in jail. I sure was. 4 times for living in the national forest. Of course, the problem with it all is if they hadn't run me there, if they hadn't taken my home, hadn't kidnapped me and broken every law here and kept me homeless, well, I wouldn't have been out in the national forest. It sure the heck wasn't fun. Starving, freezing, no toilet tissue. Cougar lived right next door to me there under a rock. I saw him, so did other people. So anyway, back to this. So if you talk about having to urinate or go out in the trenches, well, what do you think I did? Really, I did what soldiers do. Okay, now here's Timothy McVeigh, who was put to death for the Oklahoma City bombing. He stated that they put a chip in him, and they did. Because there's more to this that I can tell. But this is talking about the implantable biochips, which was what I was telling about when Larry Flint was shot. I was riding, and April Fool's Day, they almost killed me. I mean, it's a miracle I lived. But anyway, they're talking about chipping William in case he was kidnapped. Well, William's not even the legitimate. He shouldn't even belong in there. They should all belong in prison, that lineage. They all know it. But anyway, that's about your New World Order that's talked about in the Bible, if you want to get into that. Because after they took down my dad and kidnapped me, it positioned the U.S. military, who went in pretending they were helping us while they taken down my father and helped anyway, and kidnapped me. Now they're going to say they're helping Great Britain, the UK. What they did was they took over UK and installed their own monarch, George VI, Elizabeth's father, who's illegal. And they all know this. My own uncle helped in my kidnapping. But the point is, it put them in a position to take over Sweden, Denmark, Norway, the Netherlands, which is controlled by the monarch system, or was. And now then the monarch system evidently has sold out and to the global government, and they wear their jewels and they give to charities and live in nice homes. And I'm the outsider. The one thing I am is the legitimate heir. And this should be told. My father's name cleared, my children, what was done to them, and my mom. But this is Project Lucid, and it's telling about the global government, which is the Rockefellers and biblical prophecy. But anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that, whatever. I've told about, I guess I should show that, and then I want to do this. This is Elizabeth, of course, who everybody loves. They're enthralled, or whatever you want to call it, by her and the wealth that she stole. It's not hers. She's a thief and a traitor. Excuse me, I don't have somebody getting up fixing my breakfast and buying, what does the clothes cost? I'm in rags. This is one of the doubles that pretend to be my father and married, one of them married, well, I don't know, maybe all of them live with her, I don't know. After all they've said about my father, you think this American spy that people put on, well, the magazines put her up, they knew the truth. It was a lie. I'm going to quit that because I'm trying to get all this up on this morning. This is one of the doubles. They married Wallace Simpson, and everybody knew it. Everybody in the Windsor family knew it. They know it now. Elizabeth's known it, the whole family. Diana knew it. She was told, if the press asked her, we just don't talk about it. Well, behind closed doors, maybe they did. This is my dad, Edward VIII. Now, I think this is George O'Keeffe, my aunt, the artist. Now, I want to go to this. I guess this is last. I don't know if anybody's still with me here. But I wanted to give you, remind everybody I mean, history is such a lie. This is when there was such a flip and everything that allowed the global government, the New World Order, which they talk about in the Bible, in end times, to become in power. That's not my father that married Wallace Simpson. Total lie. Married my mom, Claudia Ruth O'Keefe. Total takedown, plot to take him down because he told the truth and wouldn't follow orders from your global government. Look what happened to him. They took him down, stole his name, his title, replaced him with a double or doubles, and had him marrying Wallace Simpson when he's married to my mom. Then they kidnapped me, his only daughter, Queen Victoria II, and the torture that I went through, I almost hope they didn't know about it. And what happened to my kids, I'm sure they didn't live happy. They loved each other. They were still together and alive October the 20th of 86. And I want to say this, the double died in 72, and he's buried at Frogmore, Windsor Castle. So happy wedding, Harry and Meghan Markle. Now I want to show you the reason that I'm putting this up. When Harry became engaged to Meghan, of course, prior or when my father was king, the king was not supposed, well, I think it's still that way, not supposed to marry Catholic, not supposed to have been married before and have especially a couple of divorces, and so on and so forth. Now then, I want to go to Meghan Markle, who was invited into my home. I'm excluded on Christmas Day, and she's going to marry Harry, who's illegal, okay, in next May, at Windsor. Happy wedding. If you don't think they haven't trampled all over me and over Great Britain, they flaunted it. The theft and the affluence, and pretend they're giving to charity that makes them look good. Well, they're giving my money. And they're doing it so they can sit up in judgment there and pretend they're the good guys and hide the truth. Now, Meghan Markle, number one, has been married and divorced. She's 3 years older than Harry, for whatever that is, you know. And she didn't come from an affluent family. Certainly she wasn't in rags like I was made to grow up and live and pick cotton and etc. So she was an actress. So I'm giving you these facts because my mother was none of these. My mother, she was an angel really, and my father, the good people. Now I want to go back up to Brother William, to Harry. He married Kate Middleton, who I have personally seen a post. She and her family, one member of her family or members of her family are Jewish, and they're part of the Illuminati, the global government, Rockefellers, Rothschilds. In fact, the post was up there, and it was legit about the Rockefellers, and I can't remember the other name on there. But she's kin to me, too, that I saw the post. Okay, everybody's enthralled, or for lack of a better word, of little George and Charlotte and all this, and all the jewels and the pump, putting them in preschool. I can tell you the world would be back I can't back, I don't know what to say, the word to use there. If you ever see what they did to my children simply because of who we are and who did it to them and to me. It wasn't enough to kidnap me. Now then, William supposedly is in line for the throne after his father Charles. Well, Charles is not legit. Now let's get to where Charles is. Charles was married to Diana, and they divorced. And they're illegal, remember. Now then, Diana wore all the clothes and all this, and people really love her, and I'm sure they'll get mad at me. Ask yourself why. She flaunted wearing clothes. She knew about me. She flaunted the wealth and went out. And their thing is that they can gain support by giving money to charity to South Africa, etc. Like they're the good guys, when in fact it's not their money. And in fact, they're doing it for political reasons. So they can stay in the home that doesn't belong to them. The home, excuse me, there's many castles. They can just switch back and forth while I'm running to the forest and on the side of the road and having things done to me that are horrible. And where are my children? They're heirs after me. Okay, you can go from there. Now, then, that's Charles married Diana. And Diana, let me see if it's going up. Yeah. Diana, well, they were divorced. And anyway, now then, Charles married Camilla Parker Bowles, and she was married prior and had 2 children. And she was Catholic. Whether she's still Catholic, I don't know. So I'm laying out just a portion of all of these rules that were broken by them while they are in power, flaunting all this money and everything and wealth. And they really control the rest of the monarchy, I would think, because I was told by one that contacted me when I first went on Facebook and said he wouldn't go, and he was a king, really, and he said he wouldn't go up against the Windsors. And by the way, I saw later, about 2 months later, I believe, where he abdicated in order for his son to take over. It was a smaller. Anyway, I'm going back to Elizabeth. She married Philip, her cousin. They're the same relationship to each other as they are to me, Mountbatten. I was going to put a picture up to Philip, and I don't, that they put, after they kidnapped me and put me in Moulton, Alabama, they brought Philip in about 3 years later. Wasn't it 1944? And there's not for one moment that I believe Philip was born to that woman line. She killed her twins, and they gave me the name of Peggy. So they gave me the name of a dead person. The irony of it all, because, well, you get the gist. What kind of life have I lived? Tortured. But anyway, he was put there. And later, I think Philip did all he could to help. One of the agencies he worked for them, and they scatter them around. They tell you that the FBI doesn't interact with the alcohol, tobacco, or the U.S. Marshals. That's a lie. And I don't know who that, at the moment, the Treasury Department, but they certainly can be pulled from one agency to the other to do work. Because Philip, I remember, this was public, so I'm not telling anything out of that might hurt him, I hope. He's retired, and he's a good guy. I mean, it looked like at a time he couldn't help me, and maybe he couldn't back in 1980. Maybe he's helped behind the scenes. Because to me, he was my brother. And he still is. And he always will be. So I didn't put his picture up because I don't think for one moment he was born in that family. He's too good a guy. And I suppose that's all I was going to say, except look at a brother, illegal George VI, who would help take down his own brother. Traitor to his country, he went with the Rockefellers and Rothschilds. The Kennedys were made a part of the Windsors by marrying, or the royal family by marrying into the Mountbatten. Actually, that was Jackie Kennedy's sister, Bouvier, that married twice into the royal family. So that was the end to get to me and to my dad, etc. So I guess that's all I was going to say. I mean, what I wanted to bring forth is Elizabeth. Supposedly my dad was committed all these sins and crimes when he committed none of them. It was a plot to take him down, a double used, and the family went along with it. I think there was something else. And look at what they've done. It's almost like every rule was broken by George. My God, who kidnaps your own niece who's the monarch? And your brother, you have to take him down in nothing but lies. What kind of, in the movies coming up, by the way, if I'm still on here right at the moment, the Queen's speech about the King's speech about George VI made him out to be the good guy of a couple of years ago. Then you got Elizabeth, the Queen, that was the name of that one, making her out to be this great person, but she never put on a cotton sack and pulled it behind her, or all the dirty walked for 2.5 years waitressing after school 7 days a week to take care of a woman who's not your mother, who you're supporting because you're trying to make Philip have a bite to eat, okay? And experiencing the hell that this woman put me through, Lina Dempsey. Thank you, JFK. And by the way, I want to say this, I bet it's not going up. When I was living on the Appalachian Trail about 1994, just prior to the new section being put up from Mountain Pass near Williamson Road and connected to Full Heart Knob, where the Appalachian Trail is, and the old trail, which I used to climb all the time from Mountain Pass and the Crawfords. Everybody knows where the Crawfords lived. Oh, boy. But anyway, I had just frozen. I didn't even have sleeping bags. I don't know how I lived, but up there, because I didn't have a place to go. I would be run out in the street and no place. And he came up there, and I thought when he come up that incline, I thought that looks like John Kennedy had on a backpack. And this boy, a friend he had that went around with him, I understand he was Bouvier's, am I right there, son? I found that out just recently. And he was the best friend of John. It's my understanding he died with cancer after then. John went down in a plane, and if you want to get mad at me, you can, if you haven't walked in my shoes. They came up there and taunted me, and JFK Jr., John. I said, you look like John Kennedy. He said, that's who I am, and he introduced his buddy. They always were together. And he said, I just wanted to come up here and see how we made you live. And he pulled out his peanuts and his stuff he had in the backpack where I had starved and frozen. That was easy to tell. I'm up at Full Heart Knob, and it's just springtime, and it's still cold up there to a degree. And anyway, he walked back down, put his stuff back in, didn't even offer me a bite of peanuts. What did I do to John Kennedy or any of these people to cause their wrath against me? And this woman sit there, Elizabeth, and not reach out one bit, but she can accept another woman in there into my home who's an American, just like Wallace Simpson, just like my mom, only they deleted my mom. Oh, thank you, Elizabeth, who everybody loves. Did you have a Merry Christmas, darling?